Welcome to Jammin' with Jason Mefford, a show where we discuss topics relevant to Chief Audit Executives and professionals in audit, risk, and compliance. We discuss the technical and soft skills needed to navigate the minefields of organizations. You hear best practices and practical advice for helping you advance your career, and we'll even talk about music, mindfulness, and psychology, because we can. So sit back and relax while you listen to the #1 podcast in the world for internal auditors, unscripted and unedited. Welcome to another episode of Jamming with Jason. Hey, welcome, my friends. I am good to be back with you this week. And this week, I'm actually going to do a little something different. It's something new that we've never done here on the episode. So since it's just you and me and my friends, we're just going to actually kind of go with it today. Before I get started, let me I appreciate all of you that actually reach out to me and let me know that you're actually listening to the podcast. So here's how you can do that, is connect with me on LinkedIn. Now, I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn. Just type in Jason Mefford and my smiling face will pop up. Then what you do is connect with me, but send me a personalized connection. So when you click on connect, if you're on the computer, just add a note and let me know that you listen to the podcast, because then I can accept your connection request. Now, I ask you to do that just because I get lots of random people who try to connect with me. And so on some days, I have to kind of look through and figure out who these people actually are. And most of the people I just ignore. But if you make sure and send me a personalized message and let me know that you're listening to the podcast and that's why you'd like to connect, I'm happy to do that. And I would love to do that so that I can actually interact and we can message back and forth. Now, if you do that too, and actually let me know what you like about the podcast, you may get featured, just like Andy is getting featured this week. So Andy, and I'm going to mispronounce your last name, and I apologize, Estrangle, sent me a message, connected with me, and he said, I've been listening to your podcast for the last 12 months now. Probably the single most valuable source of my ongoing CPD and general career advice. Thank you so much. No, Andy, thank you actually for listening and for sending me this message. I sit here in the recording studio and I talk to myself in front of the mic, but I really love to hear from people that are listening to the podcast, are actually learning and getting value from this. So I really appreciate, long time, 12 months now. So you've been listening for a long time, and really appreciate that. Now, as I said at the beginning, today I want to take a little bit of a different approach to it. So it's going to be a little ad lib, and we'll see where it goes. And I apologize, I have a little bit of a frog in my throat. It's a seasonal allergy time for me, and so sometimes I cough a little bit, but I hope you're understanding of that. I was actually interviewed for another podcast this last week. And so the tables got turned on me. I was the one getting asked all the questions instead of normally I'm the one asking the questions. And a couple of the questions that came up, I thought, you know what, I don't think I've actually shared with my listeners some of these answers. So I thought I would take a little bit of time and share some of that. Now, when this other podcast comes out, I'm supposed to be able to get a copy of that, and we'll actually post that here as well. And I can forward you back to the other podcast as well. But the question came up, Jason, you're a little bit different. You talk about psychology, science, mindfulness, and music. And why do you talk about that with internal audit? So let me just share with you a little bit about that. Now, if you've listened, I think it was last week's podcast or the one before that, that I love to learn. I love to learn things, and I love to share that learning with other people. And, the longer that I've been in this profession, I've actually realized that traditional internal audit is just not working for organizations. We see it get downsized. We see a lot of other executives just believe it's another compliance function. And that's because that's unfortunately how a lot of people are doing that. And so I've made it my life's purpose now to try and teach people in my space, internal audit, risk, and compliance, and actually teach the technical, but also the soft skills that you need to be able to succeed in your career. Okay, and again, a lot of times in our profession, we focus so much on technical, and we think that technical will get us by, but it's actually a lot of the soft skills that are going to be those things that really make the difference. And so again, you hear me talk about that a lot. I'm going to talk more about it. I've got more courses coming out about that. But here's the reason why. Why, Jason, do you talk about psychology, science, mindfulness, and music? Well, I like the alliteration of those four words is one thing. Psychology, science, mindfulness, and music, right? Two S sounding words, two M sounding words. Now, let me start with psychology first. My favorite class in undergraduate when I was going to college was psychology. That was my favorite class. That was the one that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed learning about psychology, about how the brain works, some of the things like that. And so, of course, though, being the logical, practical one, I got an accounting degree instead of a psychology degree. Go figure, right? So I got into accounting, I got into CPA firms, ended up in internal audit. And again, I've loved my career, but I have always had a fascination with psychology, okay? And so I have continued to learn, for the last 25 or 30 years about psychology. And again, the more that I learn as I develop myself, as I'm coaching and helping other chief audit executives and people in our space, I realize how important psychology is to what we do. And the problem is nobody else is really talking about it. So I'm talking about psychology. Now, why do I talk about science? Well, again, sometimes a lot of people are not talking about that in our particular area. Now, sometimes I might say some things that people go, oh, Jason, you're a little woo-woo, like when we get back to the topic of mindfulness that I'm going to talk about next. But what I can tell you is all of these things that I talk about, whether it's psychology, how your brain works, how to influence people, how to actually take care of yourself, how to unlock your potential and get what you want out of life and out of your career. Some of the things that I say may sound a little hippy dippy. And I know I live in California, but I'm not some pot smoking hippie that's just espousing crazy shit. Okay. There's actually science to back this up. And so I like to talk about the science and let you know I'm not as crazy as I sound. Okay. There's actually backed science for everything that I'm telling you and teaching you how to do as well. Because I think that's important to make sure that what I'm talking about, what I'm telling you is actually real and has been supported both by my own experience, excuse me, by the experience of others that I know, but also that it's backed up by scientific research. So the mindfulness, why do I talk about mindfulness? I mean, I've got a whole separate podcast, with my friend Kathy, where we talk about a lot of these type of things in more detail about how to be more calm, how to be more present, how to use things like meditation and breathing and even hypnosis and some of these other things to be able to be more mindful. Now, one of the reasons that I do that is, again, I told you that I want to teach and share the technical and soft skills that you need to be able to develop and unlock your potential in your life and in your career. One of the biggest ways to do that is through mindfulness practices. And there's lots of different ones that you can do. And I'm going to talk about a lot of them, again, and those of you that have been listening for a while, you've probably heard about some of those already. Okay. But the reason is it is especially important for us in internal audit risk and compliance areas because we tend to focus on the negative in our job. And as a result of that, we see lots of negative at work. We're looking for fraud. We're looking for risk. We're fearful. We're uncertain. And a lot of times what we do at work ends up carrying over into our personal lives. And I've seen this with lots of people. And I don't want that to happen because again, one of my biggest purposes too is to help you learn how to learn the knowledge, skills, abilities, and have the experiences that you need. But one of those is around mindfulness, about getting out of fear, about getting out of anxiety, learning how to control your brain so that you can actually have a peaceful, joyful, happy life as well. Now, again, I know that sounds kind of crazy. You're not going to hear lots of internal auditors talking about being happy and being grateful and, how to calm your mind and be joyful, but I'm that crazy one, okay? And so I'm going to talk about those, and I'm going to talk more about it because it's something that I'm passionate about. And especially, my friends, at this time, as we're going through a lot of the things in the external world, I know there's a lot of uncertainty out there. I know that a lot of you are fearful, you're anxious, you're worried about what's going to happen. And I want to help you to calm down and realize that everything always has been okay. Everything is okay now, and everything will be okay in the future. And it's through mindfulness that we actually are doing a lot of this, okay? So that's why I like to talk about mindfulness as well, because you know what? Our job is hard enough. There's enough stress at work, and you need to be able to unplug a little bit, reduce your stress levels both at work, but I really don't want you bringing that home to your friends and your family and in your own personal life as well. So I talk about it as ways to help you so that you can separate that and have more peace throughout both the business day and at home as well. So that's psychology, science, mindfulness. Now let's talk about the music. Why do I talk about music? Is because I love music, okay? And also in having, studied learning, how we learn, how best to learn, music is one of the best ways both to learn as well as for us to be able to help to adjust our feelings and the emotions that we're actually feeling. So as an example, right, one of the things that I do every single morning to help anchor myself and get ready for the day is I have a playlist of music that I listen to. It's music that reminds me of certain things. It makes me grateful. It gets me ready and pumped up and ready to start the day feeling good. That's something that you can do as well. Now, I like music as well because I believe I'm a poet. Underneath all of this, I'm an artistic person as well, and I write poetry. And I will tell you that, again, a lot of the lyrics in music is great philosophy, it is great poetry, and it is things that we can learn from as well. And so I like to try to incorporate music. You'll hear me reference certain lyrics and other things like that when I'm going through and doing a lot of stuff. That's one of the reasons why. And in fact, as I told you at the beginning, today we're going to do something a little bit different, and it's going to involve music. So hold on for that, okay? Now, again, I told you I didn't really know quite where this was going to go, but I wanted to help share with you or explain why I talk about psychology, science, mindfulness, and music, along with all of the internal audit risk and compliance things that I talk about. Because ultimately, again, as I said, traditional internal auditing is failing us. We need to start thinking more progressively. We need to start seeing how we can actually truly add more value to our organizations by taking a real risk-based approach, not risk ranking systems and other stuff, but actually looking at how we can help our organizations most. And some of that's going to fly in the face of what you have been taught as a profession that we're supposed to do. But again, more to come on that. But again, the reason why I'm doing this is because I care about you. I care about our profession. And so what that's going to mean is, figuratively, you're listening to me through the internet. And at some times I'm going to kind of reach my hands through the internet, and I'm going to grab you by the shoulders, and I might shake you a little bit. In fact, sometimes I might even slap you around a little bit figuratively. And the reason that I do that is because I care about you. And people who actually care about you are willing to tell you and say the things that you need to hear, even if sometimes it's not the things we want to hear. Okay? So think about some of those friends and family that you have that are actually really people who care about you. And sometimes they tell you the tough message because we need to hear it. Okay? And so I'm going to do that sometimes. Like I said, I'm going to figuratively reach through and shake you up a little bit. I might say some things that piss some of you off. Okay? I do it from a place of love and of caring. Okay? And I use the L word, right? I do actually love my friends out there in the world, right? I care about you. Now, other times, I'm going to figuratively reach through the internet and give you a big hug, because you know what? We all need a hug sometimes. And that's what I kind of wanted to do a little bit here to kind of end up the episode. To bring some music into this, and the podcast is called Jamming with Jason, and usually, again, it's me kind of talking and jamming with people. But today, again, I figured I want to do a little something different. I actually want to play some music and sing with you because, again, we're friends. We're here. I'm a little rusty. Like I said, my voice has got a little frog in it, and I might make some mistakes. But again, I'm jamming with friends, so I hope that you will all be understanding and loving towards me. But the reason that I want to do this, again, is it's a song that many of you have probably heard before. And if you looked at the title of the podcast, you probably saw it and thought, this is a little bit different, right? Excuse me. This is one of those songs that, especially at a time like this, in previous episodes, I've talked a little bit about don't focus on the negative, but focus on the positive, because there's always a positive in every condition that we are going through. And this song, Touch of Grey from the Grateful Dead, is one of those songs that speaks to me. Okay. And it's got some crazy lines in here. The cow is giving kerosene. The kid can't read at 17. It's about all these things that seem to be going wrong. And you know what? There's a lot of things that sometimes tend to go wrong in our lives. But if you remember, the chorus says, I will get by, I will get by, I will survive. And that's a message that I want to bring home to you. Regardless of what you're feeling or thinking right now, whatever emotional state you are in, we are going to get through this. We are going to get through this together. There are ways to elevate yourself up. If you feel yourself down in that fear and depression area, if you feel yourself in anxiety, there are ways to raise yourself up. And always remember that we will get by. So because of that, I wanted to, and again, unscripted. So here we go. I'm going to just play a little bit here for you and sing as we kind of close this out as a reminder, and bringing music into this to remind you that, you know what, even if there's a little bit of touch of gray going on in your silver lining, that we're going to get by. So here we go. I'm going to grab the old guitar here and see how we go. So be gentle with me, right? are running late. Paint by number morning sky looks so phony. The dawn is breaking everywhere. Light a candle and curse the glare. We'll draw the curtains, I don't care, 'cause it's alright. See, you've got your list out. Well, say your piece and get out. Yes, I get the gist of it, but it's alright. I'm sorry that you feel that way. The only thing there is to say is that every silver lining's got a touch of gray. I will get by. I will get by. I will get by. I will survive. And with that, my friends, I'm going to sign off for this week after a little jamming, and again, remind you and let you know you will get by. We will get by, and we will survive. And together, as we come together as a community, as we actually deepen our human connection with other people, there are lots of people out there that are going through exactly the same things that you are going through. And the more that we can be a light to other people and help other people, we're all going to get through this together. So with that, my friends, I'm going to sign off for this week. Keep on rocking it in the audit world. And I will catch you on a future episode of Jamming with Jason. Have a great week. And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Jamming with Jason. Keep on rocking in the audit world. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you later on the next show. If you'd like to earn continuing professional education for listening to today's episode, head on over to C-Risk Academy at ondemand.criskacademy.com. And that's C as in the letter C, riskacademy.com. Not only do you get a CPE certificate, but you also will have access to the video version of today's show. The views and opinions expressed on this show are that of the individuals and not of their respective organizations.